Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I see it's right at a little after 2 o'clock, and so we are gonna go ahead and get started so we can be cautious of your time. I am Dr. Chas Gibson from the Office of Safe and Supportive Schools, and I am accompanied by Dr. Jennifer Freeman, and I'm also accompanied by Ms. Nicole White, who's also from the Office of Safe and Supportive Schools, and we are here today to we are definitely here today to engage with you around the final reporting and no-cost extension during this meeting. Myself and Jen will be leading the meeting, and Nicole will be in the chat, and will also be around to assist with questions. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to ask them, put them in the chat, and so we can definitely get all your questions answered. Next slide, please. All right, so today's agenda, we won't be too long, but we will be very thorough. We'll focus on preparing to close out, as we know you are in year 5. We'll also focus on the final performance reporting. We'll focus on the ED 524B reporting form. We'll talk about the no-cost extension, and then we'll have Q&A. All right. So preparing to close out. So within 90 days after the end of the performance and budget period, these are some things that you should certainly do or start thinking about. Working with your financial team to reconcile financial expenditures associated with your award. You want to begin to liquidate all obligations incurred under the award. You want to return any funds due to ED as a result of refunds, corrections, or audits. And then furthermore, you want to review grant application or review your application to determine what goals were accomplished, what changes, if any changes were there, or any amendments were made to the project that differ from the applications. Also, you want to know any barriers to accomplishing any planned goals and actions to overcome those barriers. Next slide, please. You want to begin completing the final performance report and review it for accuracy. And so that's what we're going to spend the bulk of our time talking about today. Your final performance report is actually due December 31st, but we put January 2nd to give you that extra time, just because we know it's the holidays, but it is due in G5. And I also ask that you would send me a copy as well, and or send us a copy as well, so we'll have access to it. But certainly it should be uploaded in G5, and we will make sure that the things that need to be done on the back end are taken care of for you to successfully submit, okay? You also want to retain any financial records and programmatic records, any supporting documents, statistical records, and all records that's required by the terms of your award, or that may be reasonably considered and too pertinent to this information during 3 years from the date of your final performance report after it's submitted. So these things that you want to keep it locked up, you want to keep it stored, just in case there's any things that we need to come back and reconcile with you, or so forth. You definitely want to keep record of everything for at least 3 years, okay? Next slide, please. If you receive a no-cost extension for this grant, your final report will be due 90 days after the revised budget period, which we'll talk more about that after a while. Please know, it's really important to know that your final report covers the entire project performance period. And once again, it must be submitted on time in G5. And failure to do so, of course, will create any challenges when it comes to future opportunities in applying for funding, okay? Next slide, please. In terms of the final reporting, the ED 524B form, which you are used to at this point in year 5, is the official reporting form that we use at ED for discretionary grants. So this is the form that you would use. The form includes the instructions and, of course, the 5 areas of the cover sheet, the executive summary. You have section A, section B, and C. And of course, right here, please take a picture of it, or go to our website at ed.gov/fund/grant/apply. You can see the appropriate forms. I believe it's in here twice, so you'll get the chance to see it then if you don't get to see it now. And you can also reach out to me and I'll be happy to send you this link. Right here, you can move forward. Right here is just a picture of the cover sheets, and it is a little stretched. So I don't know if you have a hard time seeing it. However, please make sure that at the top, you want to make sure that you hit final performance report instead of the annual performance report. You want to make sure that you want to make sure that your reporting date period, you look at the reporting period from the start of the grant to the end of the grant. And also, I want to highlight, you want to make sure that you look at 8C, which are budget expenditures, which will highlight the brevity of the grant, okay, or the full time of the grant. You can move forward. And this is pretty much the same thing I just stated. Again, you want to make sure you hit that final performance report that's located at the top. You want to be sure that you complete all sections and make sure you refer to the instructions if you have questions, or you can reach out to myself or Nicole or Jen if you need if you have questions. All right, and note that 8C again, because and that's important because you didn't have to always do that in past reports. And we'll talk about what that means or what that should look like momentarily. Okay. Next slide, please. So looking at the ED 524B reporting form, first there's the executive summary. So in this section, you will provide, I say thorough, but right here we say at least a strong 1 or 2 pages of a general summary of your overall activities for the LEA grant over the course of the 5-year period. I know it's, you may say, how can I get all of what we've done and all the things we've accomplished? However, but there's a way to do a high-level summary of some of the major things that you have accomplished, and we want to make sure that you pinpoint those and you note those so you can get the credit and get the notice for that. You also will want to use this section to highlight the progress that you have made in meeting your project goals and the extent in which you expected outcomes and performance in which the measures in which they were achieved. If for whatever reason your project goals and your objectives were not met, you should definitely include information about the challenges that affected implementation. Once again, I told you, you will see that link again. So if you didn't get it the first time, please capture it so you can find these forms, you can find this information right online at that link. Okay. Next slide. All right, right here is where we're gonna transition over to, I'm gonna invite my colleague Jen in to talk about the GEPR measures. And this is the project status chart where you will be highlighting some of those performance measures and some of those quantitative data. Jen, you can come in.
Jen, you're muted.
Thank you. Let me try again. Thank you, Chaz. This is a form you all have seen before. You're probably very familiar with it. I did just drop in chat for everyone a guidance document that we've shared a couple of times that gives kind of step-by-step instructions on completing this section of your report. Austin, you can move to the next slide. You will report here for both your program and your GIPRA measures. The GIPRA measures cannot be changed. The wording is what the wording is. So please that's a copy and paste activity, not a creative writing activity. Your program measures are established in your grant, and so you put those in and your GIPRA measures. And when you're entering data into this section for both types of measures, GIPRA and project, make sure that you're including both the raw score and your percentage numbers so that we have both the numerator and the denominator in order to be able to figure out how to consolidate this data. Austin, you can go to the next slide. In this section, you will include an explanation of progress. That is a small narrative section that can be talking just about this final year of the grant. It can talk about just, you can leave prior information in there, but make sure you add information about any of the data, any details about data collection procedures or explanations or response rates to surveys. All of that information goes in the explanation of progress section. And keep that focused on this year 5 information. If you'd like to also provide sort of overall grant totals, that can go there, but make sure it's separated from year 5 information so that we can tease those apart. You can create multiple pages here. In fact, you'll need to create multiple pages here. And if you don't have data for some reason, hopefully that's not the case for most of you at this point, but you can use that explanation of progress section to describe why you don't have that data. You can go into the next slide, Austin. A couple of points just to emphasize based on some confusion or things that we've run into in the past. The GIPR measures ask you to report things like the number of schools improved. And generally, that's a pretty easy determination to make if things got better from year to year. But there are situations where you kind of hit a floor effect. So if you had 0 discipline referrals last year and 0 discipline referrals this year, you can count that as an improvement because there's no room to continue to get better. You've already kind of eliminated discipline referrals. So keep that in mind. And in the reporting form, you'll just add a line for each year. So you should already have a line for year 1, year 2, year 3, and now you'll add a line for year 4, and so that you can kind of keep track of the data by year. You can go on to the next slide. Make sure that you're entering data that match the measure, please. And this is probably the most frequent mistake we see. A number of the measures ask for the % of schools that improved. That's different than the total number of suspensions or expulsions that happened. What we need is the total number of schools that reduced that. So make sure you're reporting the number of schools, not the number of incidents or the number of students or staff that responded positively to a survey. The measure is asking for the number and percentage of schools. And we already talked about the annual improvement piece, but you're comparing last year's numbers to this year's numbers to determine whether or not improvement was made. And I think I'm turning it back over to Chaz now to talk about section B.
Absolutely. Thank you. And right before we get to section B, I just want to remind everyone, it is important as you are addressing your GEPR measures, you are addressing GEPR measures for all 5 years. Okay. So you want to make sure you highlight all 6 of those measures for all 5 years. Okay. So now we're going to move to section B. In this section, this is where you talk about your spending. You talk about your spending. You may use the same budget expenditure spreadsheet that you have used over the past. It hadn't changed, and all those things are back at that link that I showed you twice. But we definitely encourage you to use that sheet and provide detailed information, of course. Now, please note that budget narrative is still important. The spreadsheet is not an either or. The budget narrative with details of those various expenses, line items, what they are. So that's still important, okay? Next slide, please. If you expect to have any unexpended funds by the end of the current period, which is September 2024, September 30th, you use this section in section B to discuss how funding might anticipate or how you may anticipate those remaining funds and what you're going to do and why they may not be expended by the end of the budget period. So what happened, especially if you're not requesting a no-cost extension, this is where you can talk about those anticipated funds that are remaining, okay? Then we're going to move to section C. I think that was pretty straightforward about section B and the spending and the budget. Section C, you talk about this, and this is where it may be slightly different because you hadn't really had to focus on this over the past few years of your reports. but you want to identify any grant activities that were not implemented for any reasons or any unforeseen challenges that took place. You want to identify any financial data that's relevant, including any budget expenditure information. Um, you want to identify any carryover funds or large available balances during, particularly in year 5, because we should have information from year 4 in previous years. Furthermore, you want to take this section and this time as you're writing to think about how you have improved the skills of LEA personnel to assist school efforts and improve school climate through various policies and fundings, professional development, coachings, and coordination of services and implementing programs. So you really want to take this opportunity to talk about some of those goals that you set before and how did you actually do it? Next slide. Furthermore, in this same section, you want to talk about how did you actually improve that quality or accessibility and usefulness of relevant district-wide data collection and analysis related to database decision-making in areas that improve school climate. You want to define what it means to implement a multi-tiered system of support with fidelity. And you also want to talk about how you determine annually to the extent of which the impacted schools are implementing such models. And what type of rubric are you using? What type of tools did you use? So you want to make sure you note that right here. Furthermore, how did you encourage the use of evidence-based practices and reliable and valid tools for these efforts to show how you improve school climate? How did you also coordinate LEA efforts with appropriate federal, state, and local resources? Moreover, in this same section, while you're talking about those other things, you also want to talk about how you have improved student academic performance and have better prepared students for employments, responsible citizenships, and fulfilling lives, including what did you do throughout your 5 years in preparing children and students to do uh, some of the following. How did you develop positive and personal relationships with others? How about developing determination, perseverance, and the ability to overcome obstacles? How did they develop self-esteem through perseverance and earn success? How did you develop self-regulations in order to work toward long-term goals? Okay, and the next one, the last one, I believe, how did you implement opioid abuse prevention and mitigation strategies by implementing evidence-based strategies for preventing opioid abuse by students and or addressing the mental health needs of students who are negatively impacted by family or community members who are or have been abusers. So we just gave you a list of things that you should really take time to go into reflection about the things that you've done. I tell many of the grantees that I've talked with over the years, I hope you have been jotting down some of your successes as you go. And I'll also encourage you to start now. I know you have some time. We're only in March, I believe it is, March the 20th to be exact, and you still have time, and I know you're also still working. However, but don't wait until the end of the year to start working on these things. Start gathering these things, and I'll be happy to make sure you have access to this PowerPoint. But please make sure you look at these things and start gathering that data, start gathering that information right now, so it won't be so heavy at the end as you're trying to put your report together to show how you have made a true impact and you have changed lives for the grantees or the people that you are serving through your grant. Okay. All right, someone just asked me, asked about no cost extension, and we are here at the no cost extension. I know I've gotten several emails and several requests, and so I know this is a very, very, very important topic to many, and I've already been receiving requests, and so has Nicole. But I'm happy to say the time is here. What is a no cost extension? A no cost extension, for those who do not know, no cost extension is a time to the an extended time or extension of time to the final budget period to complete the work of the grant under that period without additional federal funds or competition. So, for example, if you did not get an opportunity for whatever reason and you didn't want to be in Part C, saying all the things we didn't get to do, or for whatever reason, but we need a little bit more time. This is that opportunity. It's important to note that a project's approved scope cannot change during the no cost extension period. Your approved scope. So that means whatever we have already approved, whatever you're currently working on, and you just need a little bit more time to finish that. That's only what the no cost extension is for. You can move, Austin, please. Thank you. I'm going to say it again. The only purposes of the no cost extension is to complete the work of the grant, not to explore new activities. And I put that in there twice intentionally because I'm always getting grantees that are currently in their no cost extension period that comes up with all these amazing, brilliant ideas. And I always have to tell them, that sounds amazing. That sounds wonderful. However, that wasn't a part of your original scope. So unfortunately, we can't do that. We have to stick with what we previously agreed to. It's not to bring on new hires. It's not to go and do new activities or explore new things, but just to finish or complete the work of the grant that was already previously approved that you just needed a little bit more time for. Again, additionally, this is a one-time extension. All right, and must not be exercised merely for the purpose of using unobligated funds or balances. So, but this is certainly a one-time. You can move, Austin. As this is a one-time extension, it can be up to 12 months, one more year beyond your current performance end date. So you may say, I need 6 months, I need 3 months, or you could say we need one more year, and we if your request makes sense, we will certainly grant you that additional year so you can finish the work that you're doing to make sure you properly close out, but continue the impact that you're doing, and hopefully there's a level of sustainability that comes behind that. The actual extension period should certainly match the amount of work and the actual work to be completed with the amount of funds that remained unspent. So certainly, when you send your requests and things, you definitely are going to want to make sure you have a strong rationale and justification. Okay, Austin? Thank you. I know I got your work in. I appreciate you, sir. Again, if you want a no-cost extension, now you have to inform your program officer in writing within 10 days supporting reasons of that one-time no-cost extension. So again, I ask grantees to have a strong justification saying what is it that you need, why do you need this no-cost extension, be able to justify what it is that you're going to do, and have a timeline of how you're going to complete it or when you're going to complete it. Right here, the department says 10 calendar days, but I do ask that you give us a little bit more time. So if you know at least 15 days or a month in advance or so, let me know if you can, so we can start working on that. But officially, you do have 10 calendar days. If you even decide that last moment, hey, yeah, we know we want this no cost extension, but please make sure you do that before the grant period ends. So please don't call me on September 30th saying I think we want a no cost extension. However, but please make sure you get that to me in advance on the date that is specified on your GAN. And so I believe that's it for no cost extension. And I will take this time to ask, or we'll take your questions.
Chaz, if you don't mind, I'll answer some of these questions out loud.
Okay. Absolutely.
One of the questions is, if we are not requesting a no-cost extension, when is the soonest G5 will be ready to accept our final performance report? You can definitely submit it via email to your federal project officer if it's done well before December 31st. But G5 will not be accepting final reports until at least mid-December, early December. Someone asked, is there a template to submit the no-cost extension? I have posted it in the chat as well as in the Q&A a couple of times. You can definitely reach out to your federal project officer, either Chaz or myself, and we can let you know what information we need when you're requesting a no-cost extension. Another question, when will our ed project officer begin accepting the no-cost extension requests? You can begin to submit those now if you know that you want to request one. Again, reach out to your federal project officer. Okay, that's it for right now.
There's one more thing. Thank you, Nicole. There's one more thing I want to highlight. If you do request a no cost extension, the expectation is that you do complete all of the listed grant activities within that requested time frame. So please don't request the no, and this is a real statement because we do have, sometimes we have grantees that were requested and for whatever reason, with that, even with that additional time, there's still challenges. But if you do see issues that arise, and that will prevent you from completing any activities, make sure you do inform your federal program officer. And even during that time, you want to make sure you're making your regular drawdowns as they match your activities. So those things are very crucial with the no cost extension.
And so let me, we have another question because we keep getting the same question. So I know you've been listening to Chaz's voice, so let me also say it. If you are not requesting a no-cost extension, you're not asking for a no-cost extension, the only report you have due now is a final report. If you are not requesting a no-cost extension, you only have a final report. That final report is due 90 days after the end of your award period. So it's going to be due technically around December 31st, but you probably have until the first week of January to submit it. That's only if you are not requesting a no-cost extension. If you are requesting a no-cost extension and you are approved for a no-cost extension, then you will need to submit an IPR to your federal project officer by September 30th. So there are two scenarios. One, if you are requesting a no-cost extension, and one if you are not. But again, if you have questions, ask your federal project officer. And it's the same form that you've been using for your IPR and APR. Same forms, same stuff. Okay, sorry, Chance.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Are there other questions? We're happy to take them now. If you have questions about the GEPRA data, Jen is here, or anything else, myself or Nicole is here. So this is your opportunity to ask any questions or to get any clarification as it relates to closing this year out with your final report or requesting a no-cost extension or even getting that no-cost extension.
If you are submitting an IPR because you've requested a no-cost extension, that will be done via email to your federal project officer. Another question that's different, that's a good question, from Johnetta, is if the PD's position is funded out of the project, can this funding continue until the submission of the final report? Yes, you can continue to obligate funds necessary to close out your project until the end. So yes, you can pay for that project director's position in order for that person to close out the grant and do all of the things that are needed to be done to close it out.
Okay. Are there any other questions that you all have?
And
Going
this is not the last time you'll talk to us. You both just
right.
reach out to us if
Most
you have
definitely,
questions.
you have access to it, 100% access to us. But since you have us directly, this is the time. But with the wait time, I'm assuming that all hearts and minds are clear. And I hope that this information was well received. But if you do have further questions, again, we are here. We are available for you so you all can be successful as you conclude your project. All right. And that's all I have. And thank you all for attending. And also thank you, Jen and Nicole, for supporting.
No problem, Chad.
And Austin, who has been amazing.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.